This is exam 3. So the first question is, how would you explain to a friend or client that's convinced that carbohydrates cause weight gain and that they should be greatly reduced when dieting? Back up your answer using resources provided in class. I'd say that carbohydrates don't necessarily cause weight gain. A lot of carbs, especially refined carbs, lead to cravings, which lead to increased food intake. So you can eat a lot more carbs and not feel as full, so that leads to just more appetite and eating in general. You can't do the same with like protein, so that's why high protein diets usually lead to less weight gain, because you're just simply not eating as much. Also, carbohydrates do actually hold water too, so in like high carb diets at the beginning, there's a lot of water retention, so that may be where he's coming from, or the client is coming from. But that's just at the beginning. It doesn't last very long. And then low carb diets will lead to reduced appetite, mainly because those diets have high protein. So it's not because there's low carbs, it's because those low carb diets have high protein, which produce satiety, which means you will eat less. Study done with Hall and Guo in 2017 found that only 3 out of 32 meta-analysis studies examined showed an improvement in body fat loss with low carb diets. Question number 2. Summarize what the research has shown with regards to the various diet archetypes we discussed in class and their impact on body composition. So for low-fat diets, so fat is very energy dense. It has more than twice the amount of energy as the same weight of carbohydrates and protein. High-fat foods generally taste good, which leads to a tendency to eat more. Studies show that increasing the fat content of the diet increases the spontaneous intake of food, so you'll just eat more. And then there's a lot of evidence that say it's less satiating than even carbohydrates, which carbohydrates aren't very satiating to begin with anyway, so you can eat a lot of fat and not feel as full. It takes very little energy to digest. So you can just eat a lot of it and not really gain or lose that much weight through the digestion at all. And then it does not immediately increase fat oxidation if you eat a lot of fat. So that's where the low fat diets are coming from. It's been shown to moderately but consistently reduce body weight, body fat, and waist circumference, and just total energy intake, which reduces body fat over time. A very low fat diet is any diet with 10 or 20% fat max in your diet. There's not very much research on low fat diets. Most of them follow just like vegetarians and vegans who just eat very, very small amounts of fat, if any. And most studies did seem to show positive fat loss effects, but there's not much significant data to like support it. In a pounds lost trial, the groups of very low fat diets didn't show any significant loss of total abdominal, subcutaneous, or visceral fat at all, so compared to low fat diets. So there may be some upside, but it's not very well documented. For low carb diets, International Society of Sports Nutrition article says that although DEXA scans showed significantly greater decrease in fatty mass in low carb diets, it should be noted that despite reaching statistical significance, the actual reduction is very small, and the practical relevance is speculated against because the individuals that were tested were obese, and not everyone is that big, so it probably wouldn't be that much of a change overall. The authors speculate that the advantage of the low carb diet over the controlled diets could have been due to the high protein intake, which is what we said earlier. Keto diets are meant to increase circulating ketone levels throughout the bodies in taking very low carbs, keeping proteins moderate, and having a high amount of fat. It's meant to increase fat oxidation, force your body to use fat for energy more. However, research has shown that the amount of protein consumed is a great factor for how much fat is lost rather than how little carbs you take, because it's so satiating. A prime example of protein's satiating effect in the study by Weigel shows that in the conditions, increasing protein intake from 15 to 30% of total energy resulted in a spontaneous drop in energy intake by 441 kcals per day, which led to a body weight decrease in 4.9 kilograms in 12 weeks. Basically, the ketone diets or 9 ketone diets really depend on appetite, which is basically how much protein you have in your diet. So high protein diet, for most diets, protein will provide 10 to 15%, but in high protein diets, it'll have about 30% of your daily intake. And basically, they're meant to suppress the appetite. That's what they're for. You won't eat as much because it's so satiating. It has a larger thermic effect, protein does, so use more calories to digest it in your body. Increased protein content of the diet, particularly in combination with exercise training, may improve weight loss and reduce the loss of lean body mass in overweight individuals during low energy dieting. A succession of recent meta-analysis supports the benefit of higher protein intakes for reducing body weight, fat mass, and waist circumference, and preserving lean muscle or lean mass in an energy deficit. Antonio findings in the article collectively suggest that the known thermic, satiating, and lean muscle or lean mass preserving effects of dietary protein might be amplified in the trained subjects undergoing resistance exercise. And then lastly, the intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting can be divided into 3 subclasses, which is the alternate day fasting, which is ADF, whole day fasting, and time restricted fasting. The most extensively researched one is the ADF, the alternate day fasting, which is a 24-hour period of not eating at all, and then 24-hour period of eating. A full fast every other day seems extreme, but could lead to an insufficient protein intake with negative consequences for muscle mass. So it's not really recommended for athletes. So if an athlete is looking for a diet, they should not try intermittent fasting. A less extreme version is the 5-to-2 ratio diet, or the fast diet, which involves eating normally 5 days a week and restricting calories to 500 or 600, depending on if you're a man or woman, on just 2 days of the week. Other intermittent fasting diet involves fasting from evening dinner one day to evening dinner the next day. So it's 24 hours. In the alternate day fasting, total weight loss and fat loss have been studied, have been seen. So it does help with weight loss and fat loss. But the retention of lean mass is still debated. Some people say that it doesn't help at all. Some people say it stays the same. It depends on who you look at there. And then with the TRF, also significant weight loss occurs, and then it does include a reduction in lean mass as well as fat mass. So question number 3, what are some of the most important considerations or factors that promote a favorable body composition? Some factors and considerations that would promote a favorable body composition are combining nutrition with the resistance training for maintaining or increasing lean muscle tissue, and at the same time losing fat mass. If you just focus on the diet and don't exercise, your muscles won't be stressed and won't adapt to become any bigger. Make sure not to overreach or overtrain, because that could cause physical and psychological stress, which could take weeks, months, or even years to recover from. Some people like to use supplements to improve performance in the weight room. After a workout, protein should be ingested, preferably protein that can be rapidly digested. This will help with recovery and will help build muscle. Protein is necessary for gaining or maintaining muscle. And then for elderly people, you just need to intake more protein than the average person. If you're trying to gain muscle or gain weight, I would probably intake at minimum 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, going up to maybe 1.8 even. Question 4, explain the difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating, outlining potential warning signs. So, an eating disorder is a gross disturbance in eating behavior usually characterized by either anorexia nervosa, which is very low food intake, or bulimia nervosa, binge eating followed by vomiting, or a range of other eating disorders that are not otherwise specified, or EDNOs. So eating disorders cause significant damage to the body and can even be fatal if they're not treated. On the other hand, disorder eating is a stage before an eating disorder, where there's not any real damage to the body yet, but the person is not eating normally due to a wide variety of reasons. It could be a lot of things, but it's not quite an eating disorder yet. Warning signs for eating disorders include body dissatisfaction, excessive exercising, many weight loss attempts, having intense fear of being fat or overweight, depression, or obsessive compulsive traits. If these warning signs are present during disordered eating, an eating disorder may present itself if you don't get treatment. When it feels like you don't have control of your body, most people do the one thing they can to have a sense of control, which is just to reduce or restrict all food intake, which is not good. And then finally, question number 5, explain why losing or gaining weight is not as simple as calories in, calories out. Losing or gaining weight isn't as simple as calories in, calories out, because there are other important factors to consider, such as what type of weight you are trying to lose or gain, like lean mass or fatty mass. Exercise is a key factor in considering how much you lose and gain weight. Adding in resistance training can help you retain lean mass while trying to lose weight, and help you gain more lean mass and fatty mass while trying to gain weight. Diet is absolutely necessary for weight goals, but to enhance the experience, resistance training and proper nutrition is necessary. Another factor to consider is the thermic effect of macronutrients that you're intaking. So protein has a thermic effect about 25 to 30% of your daily, 20% or 25 to 30%, while carbs are 6 to 8%, fats are 2 to 3%. So if your diet consists of more protein, you'll be burning more calories through the thermic effect of digesting that protein. Another factor is that just the basal metabolic rate, which accounts for most of the energy expended in a day, which is 60 to 70%. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT, accounts for daily activities that are about 50% of daily expenditure in sedentary individuals, but could go up to 50% in active people. Exercise accounts anywhere from 15 to 30%. So all this varies from person to person depending on individual body composition, depending on how tall, how much muscle mass, sex, age, all of the above. You could also dig into the process of refinement processing of foods, but that is proven to not really serve much of a difference in total energy expenditure. Finally, the top 4 organs that contribute to basal metabolic rate are the heart, kidneys, and brain, liver, which together complete 70 to 80% of the BMR, unless you're counting just net bases, including the mass of each organ. Then the top 3 are muscle, brain, and liver. So there's a lot of things to really account for or other than just the calories. It's like the type of calories, and then what else you're bringing into it, like exercise and all of that.